Great. Okay. Hello, Hockey World. It is Tuesday, May 17th. Beautiful, beautiful day here, 2022.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen, Hockey Buzz.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. Now with less Mike. No, Mike will be here in a little bit. But he's covering the Toronto Maple Leafs press day today, so he'll be joining us a little bit later. But we're going to get into some things as well. Before we started, like some predictions, and we only have Russ. How long do we have you two until 2?
Half hour.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to get into some predictions. I don't know what time Mike's going to jump on exactly, but before we do any of that, I do want to jump on Kevin. With just your thoughts of the first round a little bit. Because we didn't get a chance to fill it in.
Yeah, I mean, as it turned out, it was a relatively easy round to predict. Everybody's scores were high, and of course, as I always say, we didn't know any less or more when we were 4-4 as when we were 7-1. So it's just the difference, as I say all the time, is between a sports writer and a fan is the sports writer really knows that we can't accurately predict what's going on. But in this case, some of the logical choices did win their series, which makes it a little bit different than previous years. And really, the only one that most of us missed was the one that was the most difficult, which is the coin flip between St. Louis and Minnesota. And I think St. Louis won that. I really felt just based on the fact that they got the momentum, they felt good about themselves, they rallied around having lost all those defensemen. But I thought the hockey was highly entertaining in the first period, and I'm really looking forward to the second period, second round. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't maybe we were talking about perhaps like the best first round ever. I mean, in some ways, it just had have that many 7-game series.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd like to see more. Would have liked to have seen more overtime games, but
that's a good point.
You can't have everything. I mean, it was
2 Game 7 overtimes though. That's something.
Yeah, exactly.
On the same day, two Game 7 overtimes.
Yeah,
that was intense.
We did get that.
Yeah, so when we move on to tonight, and we're going to get Mike's predictions too when he jumps on here, but I want to get Russ's as soon as we possibly can too. So there's bunches and Kevin. So they go from 8 to 4, as we always joke around, like it gets half as interesting, but and only half the amount of people are interested in this thing as it goes now. So we'll definitely get into more rumors and things like that as we go along here. But I think the great thing about this round is like two of the great rivalries in our sport happening in this round. That I think is just having the Battle of Florida and the Battle of Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that the NHL put them on opposite nights. I think that's great because that's just such a every night type thing that you get to watch something absolutely spectacular. And maybe we should start there, Kev. Maybe we should start in Florida with you.
Yeah. I'm going to go against the grain a little bit, even though I've been all season long just been so impressed with the Florida Panthers. But I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Lightning just on the basis I just don't trust the Florida Panthers defensively. I think they're just prone to give up too many goals, and you can't give up scoring chances to the Tampa Bay Lightning and expect to beat them because they're not going to give up. You're not going to beat the Lightning 4-3 every game. So I'm going to go with Tampa in 6 on that, and I also feel I got a great possibility of being wrong on this. So, but that's who I'm taking. I'm going with Tampa. I was impressed that the Lightning, who didn't play very well, I thought down the stretch, managed to use their expertise in postseason winning to pull out that series against Toronto.
I really thought so too. I really thought that. I'm sorry if I hit that accidentally by the Blues goaltending was fantastic. I apologize. I'm trying to do this outside, which is not easy, so I apologize. Anyway, take this off here, get rid of these things, and we're good. All right, Russ, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought last year Florida was good enough to beat Tampa, and they didn't. I feel like Tampa's team was better last year. It definitely was better because they had Braden Point. I don't know if Braden Point's even playing in this series or when he gets in it, if he does.
Yeah.
Kev makes a good point about Florida's defense. I feel like Florida, though, can push the pace enough to wear out Tampa eventually.
Right.
I'm still only picking Florida in 7 because I still saw, Vasilevsky being able to lock down certain games and McDonough being able to, take over certain periods. And so that's still going to happen. But I think Florida, with their depth, is going to outlast them this time. And I think they're built. I think last year gave them a little bit of a roadmap on how to play against Tampa, and I don't think they're afraid of them at all.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I mean, I'm going to do the quick little thing that I do, which is the fun little matchup thing real fast. And that this year, the matchups went 7-1 in the first round. We talked about how matchups can be right or wrong. 7-1 in the first round. Pretty impressive there. As did Mike Augello actually go 7-1 in the first round. He was better than all of us. So Florida, Tampa, then 2-2. They split this season. But they've played 18 times in the last 15 months. So I was like, I thought I should go back and look at that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times in a short period of time. 18 times, 15 months. Each has won 9 of those games. Only 3 of those 18 games have gone to overtime. Florida won 1 in overtime. Tampa won twice in overtime, which gives Florida the slight matchup advantage. I mean, really ever so slight. Like they have 1 more point if you were to do the by the point method, right? So that's how you do that there. But and as far as goals go, Florida scored 67 goals. Tampa 63 goals. And then the power plays, I talked about that. Power play regular season, Florida was 5th, Tampa was 8th. Penalty killing regular season, Florida was 15th. Penalty kill regular season, Florida was 16th, Tampa was 11th. But the power play in the playoffs is something we should talk about. The Florida team, has not scored a power play goal. We talked about that.
Yeah, but we said the Bruins won a Stanley Cup without scoring on the power play either.
Yeah, but to win a series, I mean, that was something. And they were also terrible penalty killing. They were 12th penalty killing of the 16 and 16th in the power play in the first round. So the special teams for Florida,
that's got to get better. You're right about that.
And against Tampa, you can't get away with that. The thing that scares me the most in the series is Bob. I think Bobrovsky is just such an unpredictable factor. And you kind of know if he's going to be good or bad. And I think I have a feeling we're going to see both goalies. I have a feeling we're going to see.
Yeah, we're going to see both, like last year. And Spencer Knight beat Tampa, didn't he, in the game?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Spencer Knight at some point. Whether or not he's the one who ends the series or not, I think the Panthers' theory, I think, is that you don't pull Bob because if you pull Bob, you're going to lose him for you can lose him mentally for a while. Like he's not, so you leave him in. You just let him go. You let it ride. With Bob. And he sometimes turns it around in the middle of the game, but. If he's on in the first period, he's going to be hard, But if he's off, he's really off, and you can't be really off against Tampa. That's what scares me more than anything else. I think that's why if I'm going to go Tampa in 7, but I think that I'd like to be different than that. I'd like to see more from Florida. If their power play does anything in the last series, that's a shorter series. So that's where this one is at for me. All right, so then the other game tonight, Colorado, St. Louis. And that's Russ, why don't you start with that one?
Okay. I mean, St. Louis did great. Like Kevin said, they really did wrestle away momentum in that series. They switched goalies. They managed to get their cup-winning goalie back in there, which I don't know if any of us saw that coming successfully, but did it. They did with overcoming a lot of injuries on the blue line, but luckily they've been drafting well, so guys like Perinovich could come in and do well. They're the more physical team, and I know everybody wants to lean towards the physical team, but the problem with the Avalanche is when they roll 4 lines, they're rolling waves at you. And I think St. Louis could handle it at home. I don't know if they could handle it on the road as far as the defensive matchups. And this is where I'm not worried about Kempner. I know everybody in the world is going to say you don't like Kempner, but you know what? He's done okay. Kevin pointed that out. It's still been okay. So I'm not worried about a net. And at the end of the day, I think the Avs have to win in 6 in this one. And I think they will win in 6 because I think the defensive matchups for St. Louis are going to just be too hard on a game-by-game basis, but especially when they're on the road and they don't have home ice.
Interesting. Yep, Gav?
Well, I mean, sometimes we just have to compare the talent level. And I just don't think there's any comparison. I mean, Colorado, it just has such a collection of gifted players, and in that first round, that's what impressed me is when it really matters. Here we are in the postseason, the talent just rose up in that first series, and Makar was awesome, Nathan McKinnon was awesome, all their top players were playing well, and I expect that to continue. And I like St. Louis a lot, but I just think Colorado's a better team, and I'm right with them. I got Colorado in 6, and that's really out of respect for St. Louis, because I also wouldn't be shocked if Colorado got it done earlier.
Well, last year they swept St. Louis in the playoffs, if you remember. So they've also played a bunch of times in the last little while here. Colorado, when I looked at the most, so they've played. I wrote it down somewhere. Anyway, they were 2-1 this season. 11 they played 15 times in the last 16 months. Okay, Colorado's won 11 of them. So 11-5. Colorado is 11-4, 15 times in the last 16 months. 11-4. Power play wise, the Colorado has the matchup advantage. Power play wise, Colorado in the regular season was 7th. St. Louis was 2nd in the NHL in the power play in the regular season, which is a big part of this series, I think, because there are more penalties being called, and if they can, depending on if the refs are like the beginning of the series or the end of the series refs, we'll see what happens. But penalty kill during the regular season, Colorado was 16th. For a really good team, that's not very good. So you're going against the second best power play. So there's a slight advantage to St. Louis there, I think, on the special teams on the power play. And that could play their advantage, although talent level is so good. Power play, Colorado was first in the playoffs. They were really, of the 16 teams, they just took apart Nashville in the power play. But still, it was only 10th in penalty kill against the Predators. So of the 16 teams, they were 10th in penalty kill. So to me, that's the penalty killing of the Colorado Avalanche is suspect. And I think the reason I think power plays and penalty kill matter so much is they change the way you play. I think if your team's getting beaten on the penalty kill, if you're giving up a lot of power play goals, you have to be a little bit more careful about how you play during at even strength. Like, you have to make sure that you don't take penalties. And when you're not taking penalties, that little extra bit to me matters in the playoffs. I think that's why I always take so much stock in this. But I agree with you on talent, Kevin. Makar is just spectacular. And I've told people of mine who are just casual hockey fans, I'm like, you got to watch this guy. Like, you have to actually watch him. Like, because we don't see him that much in the East Coast. So now in the playoffs, you get a chance to see him every night. I recently watched Bobby Orr play in an old game. I caught an old game, like from way back when Bobby Orr was playing. And if you ever get a chance to do that, you should do it, because you'll see Bobby Orr skates as if he's like a time traveler from this era into that era.
Right.
Like, the difference is, like, you know what I mean? Like, he skates like players skate now because they skate like Bobby Orr skated. But the players back then didn't skate like that. So he looks almost unfair, like, as he skates through these players that are different kinds of skaters. Well, I dare to say that Makar almost feels like a time traveler from 2050. Like, he's like, maybe in 2050, we're going to say those players skate like Kel Makar used to skate. It feels or play defense like Kel Makar used to play defense. That's how good he is, and that's why I got Colorado in the series too. I agree with you on that one, but I think that I don't know. That's my feelings on that league.
One additional point about Colorado, because you brought it up, we noted this before the regular season ended, that Calgary does all the little things right. For example, they're great on face-offs. They're hard to play against.
Right.
Their penalty killing is exceptional. And Colorado does none of the little things right. They're terrible on face-offs. They're not particularly hard to play against. By that I mean, they don't really. It's not like there's an Avalanche player on you every time you get the puck. And their penalty killing is really not that good, but it really hasn't bothered them. And when they played Calgary, I watched the last time they played, and it didn't seem to make a difference. That Calgary did all the things.
I can add one thing to that, Kev. As I'm looking on this list, I want to point out again, Sam Girard is 6th all time in Avalanche defenseman scoring in history. And guys like Sam Girard, they don't play great defense. They don't play hard punishing defense, but they do retrieve the puck, and they do have the puck a lot. And that's what Colorado does. They do have the puck a lot. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's really the key to their success is Russ's puck possession. Like, they're not particularly, like, you don't say, oh man, I don't want to play Colorado. They're all over me. But, they end up playing good defensively only because they own the puck more often than not.
Right.
So,
and that's the thing. I mean, and especially the longer you can keep things alive in the offensive zone, that offensive zone time in the playoffs is massive, because that's where you start seeing the ugly bounces and all these other things. Colorado does keep the puck alive a lot in the offensive zone. McCarr's a genius at it. Like, he's great at that.
Yeah, no, they've really been impressive, and they're just so much different than everybody else. A lot of the teams that are left, do the little things right, or like look at Carolina with a defense that's really difficult to play against because their forecheck is tremendous.
Right.
Their defensemen are on you. And I think that's most people see that as the successful formula where. Colorado is more a throwback team of saying, look, this is our talent, and we figure our talent is better than your talent, and we're going to try to play the way we play.
Yeah, the only one who's close in talent is Florida.
Yeah,
Colorado has the most talent.
Yeah, Florida. Yeah, I mean,
Florida has depth. Like, they have really good depth throughout, but Colorado's got like overwhelming talent on the top six that's better than anybody's.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing about Florida that's so fascinating to me is how well Giroux has just fit into that team. And
don't you feel he's teaching them some things? Like, they seem like they were a little bit like not choking, but a little tight. And then when Giroux scored that big goal, it was kind of like, hey, Claude Giroux is like telling these guys, I've been here before. I can help us over the hump. I feel like he's helping them over the hump.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think that turned out to be just a great addition. Like I wondered, initially I thought that Sherratt would be the guy that would put him over the hump, but it's really been Giroux that's really been an impact player.
Yeah, he really has had a huge impact, and also, but that one game, I guess it was Game 5, where so the first goal was scored by the guy that, like, the first move that Bill Zito made when he made the Pittsburgh Penguin thing. He gets what's his name? Sorry,
Rahagi?
No, the Penguin guy that he traded for Matheson, the Penguin.
Oh, Matheson.
Yeah, right. They get Holmquist. So Holmquist. Yeah, you're right. So Holmquist, they get that. I'm sorry, I apologize. This is just crazy cast here. Anyway, we're good now. So they get Holmquist, right? Verhaeghe is the guy that he signed. Zito signed to a couple. I'm sorry, my thing is messed up. I apologize. I'm going to come back. I'll be back in.
All right. I guess Kev, that's fine. Kev, well, let's talk about the Ranger series because I'll be covering a little bit of that one.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
I get why Carolina's the favorite. I do, because of the things you said. Their forecheck, their team defense, probably the best in the league. The only things that I've noticed that they're a little bit that they have a few little issues on. We know about their goaltending. It's not been bad, but it's not top-notch, perfect goaltending. But the other thing is Boston was able to throw them off their game a bit. D'Angelo, Brendan Smith, these were guys that were high-temper guys for the Rangers, and you could get them off their game. Even Brady Shea, who's a very physical guy, you could get him kind of, ticked off. The Rangers have the ability to do that, but they're another team that they don't do a lot of those little things great all game long. But again, like Panarin had one of the worst games I've ever seen him have, and he scores the game-winning goal, and he's done that before. But the other thing is they do have guys with clutch goal-scoring ability that could give Carolina problems if Carolina doesn't score consistently, because I still think consistent scoring from them is an issue.
I think their scoring is fine, and particularly against the Rangers' defense. The one thing that I felt kept the Penguins alive in that, in addition to the fact that Shesterkin was not Shesterkin, was the fact that defensively the Rangers, were loose, and which they were kind of all season, particularly in the second half. So I think this is going to be a close series, and the reason I think it's going to be close is I think Shesterkin's difficulties are behind him, and now he's going to be the goalie like he was during the regular season. And I'm a little concerned about Carolina's goaltending. Is Freddie Anderson really going to be back? And if he is going to be back, what's he going to be like? He hasn't played in a while.
No, it's true. And, I get what you were saying about Shesterkin, but he also faced so many more shots because of the triple overtime game. But the other thing is he came up big against Gensel. He made 3 saves against Gensel. Like, Gensel put every move on him in his arsenal, and he stopped him 3 times cold. I feel like that's when he sort of got over the hump for this series.
Yeah, but I think, the fact that Gensel had so many chances just speaks to the
That's the defensive part. You're right about that.
I mean, they just, I watched that series pretty closely, and they just allowed way too many scoring chances.
They were better with Braden Schneider in there, and Gallant is afraid to play him at times. He's physical and he's good with the puck, but he is better defensively than most of their guys. And if Gallant were to give him more minutes, that could tighten the gap on that very easily. But I don't know if he'll do it. I just don't know.
Yeah, because you compare that to the Carolina defense, where there's zero room when those guys are playing well. You've got no room out there.
True.
Yeah, nothing at all. They when they're playing well, I mean I do agree, Kev, that if they change goalies, it's a risky thing to do. It feels like I guess it always is in the playoffs, right? But it feels particularly risky. I don't know, to bring him back in right now, but. Do we have the? I mean, Ranta really did look very good in that.
I mean, Ranta had some good games, but he didn't face an offense that he's going to face now. The Rangers do put a lot of pressure on in the crease, a lot. With Kreider and Zibanejad, they put a lot of pressure. Panarin does, if nothing else, he's shooting the puck a lot. He is going to be under a lot of pressure. They're going to have to block 1,000,000 shots, which they try and do, but I still don't think they faced an offense like the Rangers.
No. Did you guys give your picks for this one?
I didn't give it yet. I'll go first. I'm going to go Rangers at 6 because I don't feel like they can win in 7. I feel like Carolina's got all those tools in place to win a game 7. I feel like the Rangers have to steal one, and they have to win it at 6.
Okay, Kev?
Hurricanes in 7. I just think they're a better team. I think Shesterkin's capable of winning this series, but I do trust their offense more than Russ does. And I think defensively they're so strong. And I feel like Anderson's close to coming back. And I mean, he could be rusty when he first comes back, but it shouldn't take him too long. And that'll be an upgrade over Ranta. I don't think Ranta was a problem last series, but Anderson's just better.
He's better.
And you have more offense coming from the Rangers than you had to Boston, I think.
Throughout
the time, and that's a big. That's
nothing else. The pressure, and especially on the power play, like that Rangers power play, the puck movement is fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And their power play was 4th in the NHL this regular season. So they are, Carolina's was 13th. So that does matter. Although Carolina has the number 1 killing team in the league, so it's interesting when you play through it. It's going to be fun to watch that little matchup because that's like a little bit matchup of superstar versus superstar in a way. They haven't played a bunch in the last 15 months. They've only played 4 times this year. Carolina winning 3 of them, out 3 of the 4, outscoring the Rangers 14-10. I also forgot to do this, and I would be really in trouble if I didn't. I got to do my son's predictions based on mascots for the other 2 real quickly. Okay. So Florida, Tampa. Obviously, Florida, as my son put, Tampa is in Florida, but Florida is not in Tampa. Which I like that.
That's funny.
I like that comment. Tampa's in Florida, but Florida's not in Tampa. The Florida Panthers, which is almost not an extinct, but an endangered species of panther that actually he studies. It's his favorite animal. So he feels a little biased, but has survived many a hurricane and many a storm in Tampa. So the lightning bolts are not going to hurt a panther. He says they're not like the giraffes. Giraffes die more from lightning than any other animal in Africa, and that's not just a joke. It's actually true. Lots of giraffes are killed by lightning because they are the tallest thing on the range. So, but that's not the case with Panthers. So that benefits the Panthers. Colorado, St. Louis. Although he didn't think a blues singer could possibly escape the wild, life in the wild. Now the blues singer is being attacked by an avalanche. He said this blues singer's had a hard time of it in the mountains. So he doesn't think that blues singer would ever survive an avalanche. So he says Colorado, and then the Rangers and the Rangers and the Hurricanes again. Hurricanes are a natural our natural threat to our national parks. He's like hurricanes, or park rangers have to deal with hurricanes and cleanups of hurricanes all the time. So that's a hurricane advantage for sure. And there you have it. Okay, so but in this series, I'm going with the Rangers in 7 as well. I'm with you on that one. I just think that this is
I did 6. I didn't want him to go to a game
7.
Yeah.
I said 7. I think that I think Shesterkin is going to get his groove on, and once he gets going, I think that's going to be. He's starting to really get there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I took the Carolina in this one. So
you took Carolina. Okay, there we go. So you got the change. And now finally, the Battle of Alberta. And the fun thing about this is, I was telling people, you can look at Edmonton. I'm going to start with this one. You can look with Edmonton. You look in Calgary, and you can say, okay, there seems to be Calgary's better. When these teams play each other, it's the Battle of Alberta. Like, to me, it's one of these things. Certain rivalries don't matter if a team's a little bit better in regular season than another or whatever. It's just, this is a battle because this is a rivalry, and they play like Edmonton plays Calgary different than they play any other team. Calgary plays Edmonton different than they play any other team. I think that's what's going to be fun about this. They were 2-2 this season against each other. They played 14 times in the last 15 months. Edmonton's won 8 of those 14, so they're 8-6. None of those games over the last 15 months, 14 times, none of them have gone to overtime. Kind of strange. Calgary and Edmonton. Anyway, for what it's worth, that's where you are. And power play regular season, Edmonton 3rd, Calgary 10th. But my prediction for this one is actually Calgary in 7. I think Calgary's got the better. I think that they're just the goaltending to me is just too big of a gap for this series. I think it's just too big of a gap. I feel, and this could, and in LA, the LA Kings didn't have the kind of scoring that Calgary has, and LA got to Edmonton for goals. So that's my feeling. Russ, why don't you go next since you have to go soon? I know.
Okay. Yeah. I personally hate myself that I have to pull for a team with an old, almost over the hill goalie in it, but Mike Smith did better in his last couple of games. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Evander Kane was one of the best players in the playoffs, and none of us really want to talk about him because we all don't like what he stands for, but he's been a great player for them. That's been a huge addition. And Zach Hyman's had a pretty good playoff too, and I felt like he started to play better. Bouchard, again, Oscar Klefbom isn't there, and Bouchard has stepped in and done a really good job on that blue line.
Yeah.
He's got 5 points too, and he's a bigger body. All that said, I know Calgary plays, the right way, and they've got this strong system, better goalie, everything else, but nobody was scoring last series for Calgary.
Yeah.
You can't put it all on Ottinger. Ottinger was great, but they have guys that have to score and haven't been, and I kind of wonder if they're just going to pay too much attention to details, and Edmonton can actually pull out a win here because maybe McDavid is going to start really imposing his will on some of these games like we've seen it, and we just have to worry that Draisaitl's not too hurt because that's going to hurt him if he's really banged up. But, he'll be out there. I'm going to pick the Oilers in 7 because I think for this one, home ice doesn't matter because they're all in the same area. They all hate each other enough. They're all used to playing in each other's place. So I don't think the home ice matters here.
Interesting one. Kev?
Well, I would really like the Oilers to win because I think it would be good for the sport to have Connor McDavid, go far and deep into the playoffs. He's, just been fantastic. The highlights from the last round were just amazing to watch, and I just enjoy seeing him play. But, I think, Calgary is the better team. They have, better goaltending. I think they have a better system, their attention to detail. I also think it would be great if Edmonton won because for once, why does, defense always has to be king?
Yeah.
Can't offense be king?
Right.
It would be fun if what Russ pointed out is true, because it was true last round. But if the Calgary can't score, and Connor McDavid's going to score, I don't care what they throw at him.
Right.
No, it doesn't matter. He'll score.
Yeah, he's going to score. He's going to score some goals. So the Flames do have to get their offense going. But overall, with the Sutter factor, the goaltending, being difficult to play against, attention to detail, Calgary is a team that's built better for the postseason. So I'm going with Calgary.
Interesting. Yeah. I think
games.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think that, Florida is in a way showing us that maybe offense can win. If Florida wins, it's offense winning, Kev. It's the same kind of thing. I mean, that is what they are, and I like that. And I think they're showing that, the best offensive team can sometimes win. This is going to be McDavid was just crazy last series. We talked about it yesterday. I've never seen more determination on a guy's face than McDavid's in this. It just every time he looked down on the bench, just the the amount of pressure that guy felt and was harboring, you could tell, was just unbelievable. Like, for a sports athlete, you don't see that kind of pressure, like that kind of pressure.
Sure.
You see pressure, but not. He looked like he was at war. He really did. He was not happy until the final bell went. Like he was just completely going to make sure that we didn't lose this in any weird way at the end of it or whatever. You could tell he was afraid. What I love about the series being the second round is both these teams needed to win a playoff series to get that monkey off their back. And now that this is in the second round, one of them is going to have to win this series, and both these teams are afraid to lose. Like, I felt like both these teams were afraid to lose in the first round. And I think both these teams were, would be afraid to lose until they play each other, at which point.
One fun point, because I'm not going to forget this. I have like 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Remember, the Oilers are paying Milan Lucic to play against them.
I like that.
That is funny. I like that. That's really good. Thanks, Russ. I'm gonna let you get going. Appreciate it.
See you guys.
But Kev, I think that there's something to that fear of losing in the first round that is so dominant. Like the Maple Leafs had it, and these teams who haven't won, they have it.
Yeah, you faded there a little bit on me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Repeat that again. Just
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I said I think there's something to the fear of losing in the first round, and that it's a major issue. And I think that I was happy that Edmonton and Calgary both got that out of the way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think because of their history, certainly it's important to get by that, and you gain confidence. Like we've talked before about how strange it is that when dealing with professional athletes who get to where they are because they're a confident group, confident athletes, but they can lose that confidence pretty quickly. So I think it's important. And I think oftentimes I sense that if a team could have gotten by the first round, they could have won it a few times, but the first round is always the hardest. And
it's the hardest.
It's psychology. So
and especially if you go out in the first round a couple years in a row, like it's one of those things that just builds on itself. And I felt like Calgary was terrified to lose in the overtime of Game 7. In the beginning of that overtime, they were playing nervous hockey, and Dallas took it to them for a little bit and had a chance. Like Dallas had a legitimate chance to win that game.
They could. It was really a coin flip at the end.
It was crazy. I know.
They could have won that, and that would have been the opposite of the offense being king, because Dallas really struggles to score goals.
And they were getting carried by a goaltender. But at some point, then hockey players know that the goaltender could win this game for them, and we're in trouble if we get. And I was actually impressed with Markstrom in the overtime. He made a couple of saves that were really huge. That saved so much angst for the Calgary Flames, like that you can't even imagine.
It's Calgary is one of those teams where I think the farther they go, the more dangerous they become because they can lock it down. And I think that's a key part of winning in the postseason is the ability to once you get a team down that you just make it so difficult for them to get goals. And, I think with Sutter in charge in Calgary that, potential is there. Although, we might be dealing with one of those seasons where, I don't know, can anybody beat Colorado? It just doesn't right now, based on what we saw in the first round of the playoffs. You would think no, but let's see what happens in this round.
It's a tough one for Colorado. I worry about Colorado's first game after that, a little bit. Like I worry about are they going to be able to shift gears? Because there's always that shift from series to series thing that I think.
They were off a long time, we wouldn't be shocked if they lose this first game, that's just the way it seems to go sometimes.
Yeah, it does. St. Louis played a harder team. They played more recently. They're more up to speed. Like Colorado really was never in danger in that series. Minnesota was down 2-1, and St. Louis was down 2-1, and it looked like they could lose that series. So this is the battle.
Well, if St. Louis beats them, it would be like in the movies where you slap the guy to say, "Okay, get back to reality here." Because that's what it would be. It'd be the equivalent of a slap.
Oh yeah. There's no question.
To kind of wake them up and go like, "Wow, what just happened here?" So
yeah. I mean, the only weakness I saw in Colorado at all in that series was the one game, it goes to overtime with Nashville, where they kind of showed that a goalie could maybe give them trouble, and if Binnington gets hot, perhaps that could be an issue. I mean, Nashville got one game out of their goaltenders in that series, and it did play into Colorado slightly. Like that was an interesting game. I wanted your opinion on the Toronto series in depth a little bit, because before we get out of here, because I really did think that was, we had a big debate yesterday about this, because I said, listen, I don't think they need to change much. I said, I think this is a really good team. I think they are in a really good place. They gave everything they could to the team that could easily win the Stanley Cup again, and has won the Stanley Cup twice before. And if they change too much, I think that's a reaction that based on their past, not based on their present.
I agree completely. I think it would be an overreaction. I think they're where the Tampa Bay Lightning were when they got dumped by Columbus, swept there, where they had to figure out, look, we got a lot of talent. Why can't we be successful in the postseason? Right. And for the Lightning, it was the obvious choice was the right choice, and that is they needed to be harder to play against.
Right.
And they went out and got the Blake Colemans and the Goodrows, and they just played an edgier game the next season. And I think that's what maybe the Maple Leafs need to do. They need to play a little bit more like the Calgary Flames, but with the high level talent they have. But the big question is obviously is the salary cap situation, and they've got issues. I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to get Jack Campbell re-signed? Are they going to try to get Fleury to come aboard? I mean, they have some difficult decisions, and they're still, even though it was better, they're still working on that defense. It's still a work in progress, and they've got to decide what they're going to do there. And I think that that's the key for them. Like, their offense is good enough, obviously.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And
so they were dominant at times in that series. I mean, even in the last Game 7, they had moments when they were dominating Tampa, and you don't see many teams dominate Tampa. Like they really, they had Tampa on the ropes a couple times, and they did get a couple unfortunate plays that happened to them, and it's just one of those things that, of course, every team has to make changes to get better. Even if you win the Stanley Cup, you should, right? They should make changes to fix their defense as much as they can.
Right.
It shouldn't be based on the fact that they lost that series, in my mind. It should be based on the fact that they just need to do that.
I wouldn't make significant changes. I mean, who they are is that that group up front that is just so dangerous, offensively. And if you break that up, then who are the Maple Leafs? Because their defense is not strong enough. Their goaltending is, we don't know.
That's a big question, right? Because you wrote a great article that's in my spot right now on Hockey Buzz, because it's outstanding about the goalie situation this summer, and it is. Campbell is a tough one, right? Like Campbell, how much do you spend on Campbell? How much would you spend on Campbell? Where do you think your breaking point is on him?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think he's going to want, in the $6-7 million range. I mean, you can't give him $8 million, but I think even asking 6 or 7's tough on him. So but too many goalies are getting $5 million. Varlamov is getting $5 million.
Right.
Isn't Leonard up at $5 million, or is he?
Yes, definitely. He might be more than that. I think he's more like 6, isn't he? I think I'm somewhere in there. But he's up there.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'll look right now. But
he's either 4 or 5 million. But so you're going to have to pay Campbell something to keep him. So $6 million. Can you afford that? I mean, it's going to be tough. And again,
exactly five Leonard is.
Right. Leonard is okay. So anyway, so that's just a bare minimum is $5 million.
But don't you think a starting goalie for a cup contending team should have a $5 million goalie? Like that feels like if you're a cup contender, $5 million.
I for sure. But I'm just saying there are a lot of $5 million goalies out there.
Yeah,
not all of them are created equal. You know?
Right.
So,
Right.
so I mean, that's just the bare. That's like minimum wage for starting goalie.
For goalies.
Yeah, for starting goalie, minimum wage. Like last year, I mean, we remember how shocked we were. Bernier got $4 million in New Jersey as a backup goalie. And there were other guys that got paid, pretty good money as backups and stuff. So if we established $5 million as a minimum wage for a starting goalie, then Campbell's is within his right to ask for 7 or 8. He had a good regular season. Now, the argument would be, but after January you were sub 900 and you really had the same goalie, so you were sort of below average for 4 months and exceptional for 2 months. So how do we factor that in? So I'm sure probably Toronto would try to get him in the 5.5, 5.75, $6 million range, but he's probably going to want more. So, but could he get more elsewhere? Maybe, I don't know. So.
I mean, there are teams. There are always teams looking for a starting goalie. That's for sure. And backup goalie has become more and more important over the years as well. So you're kind of stuck with that too. Mrazek, I'm putting out in the chat room, makes $4.5 million as a backup for the Maple Leafs right now.
Yeah, that's a great point from the chat room. Yeah,
that's like so. Yeah,
but I think we all thought that was just as Bernier. I thought paying Mrazek. Now Mrazek did actually they liked Mrazek in Carolina. He played better for him. And if they can get rid of Mrazek, Mike seems to think it's going to be easy to move him, doesn't he? And I'm not so sure. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than he thinks.
I think so. He's actually $3.8 million, but that's just looking it up now. But that's that's not easy to move him at $3.8 million. I mean, that's a team that needs it's like a medium range team starting goalie type situation.
Yeah.
I think that's a tough one. I don't think it's going to be easy to move him at all. In which case, if you're going to pay Campbell, you could be at, you can't get to close to $10 million on goalies. You can't do that. That's.
Well, there's some interesting goalies out there. If we can talk a little bit.
Yeah, let's please do that.
And because, for example, there's still a little bit of a romance with Holtby. He's only 4 years removed from winning the Stanley Cup. The problem is the Holtby's been hurt. Now, he only played a couple of games late in the season. So, I wonder if there's teams that, with the Washington Capitals, are they saying to themselves, we were really disappointed in our goaltending. We know Braden Holtby. If Braden Holtby can give doctors reports and show everybody he's healthy, and, you probably don't have to pay him a lot of money.
Yeah,
first of all, he's earned a lot of money. He probably knows that, because of his injuries and the fact that he hasn't played with a good team in a while, that maybe he has to take less. So could you get him to come in for 1 year at 2.75 or $3 million? Could the Capitals get him to come in? And then do they trade Samsonov? Because I'm sure that wouldn't the Buffalo Sabres be interested in Samsonov?
Yeah, I mean both of their goalies, Vanacek too, has had a. He's people like him as well.
Right. So you can move one of them. So I think there are some intriguing. And then,
Willie Husso from St. Louis is really.
Willie, he is a fascinating. His record this season, it was 25-7 and something.
25-7-2, right?
Right.
2.56, 919.
Right. And, now Bennington is back, and you don't want necessarily to have, two potential number ones. I mean, it sounds good in theory, but it's from the salary cap position, it's always difficult. So, how much can St. Louis give Husso to come even back?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. And he would be interesting. Wouldn't he look good with the Edmonton Oilers?
I totally agree.
Yeah. Or, there are other teams that are looking.
Toronto, if Campbell gets out,
Yeah. Yeah.
Or so who's going to demand more, in the market? Husso or Campbell?
Right. And a lot of teams are going to be changing their backups. I think it's a real bull market in the goaltending. I think there's going to be a lot of buying and selling there. And even a guy I talked a little bit. My least favorite Flyers backup goal,
Martin Jones. Yes.
Martin Jones. Uh, I think teams are going to look at the fact that he's played almost 400 NHL games and not look at the fact that in the last 4 years he has not gotten his save percentage over 900.
No, and he doesn't move well in goal. I mean, if you watch him play,
no, but don't you think he'll end up with a nice backup job? I think
he could if you have a really confident saint like goalie, like in maybe on the island or something like that, where you've got like somebody like Sorokin who's going to play most of the time. If Varlamov, who still has a year left, is gone, is goes someplace else. Which
if they can convince him to do that, but all accounts is he just doesn't really want to go anywhere. So
I mean, he didn't want to go to Edmonton. We knew that, right? That's what we heard. So, but that is Edmonton. That could be a different ball of wax depending on where, like Colorado, like these teams like Colorado, having Colorado and Toronto and St. Louis, 3 teams there who they're really top goalies are UFAs. That's interesting. They could swap around, they could move around, they could because they're all and Kemper, how much is he worth? I guess it's going to depend on how he plays in the next couple rounds. And then Marc-Andre Fleury, that's always the elephant in the room, the Marc-Andre Fleury of the room, so to speak. It feels like Pittsburgh would do that.
Well, I thought about Pittsburgh on that. Casey DeSmith didn't have a great season this year. There was some concern about him. He did pull it together late, and then of course now he's coming off core muscle surgery. But would they bring him in with Jari? If Fleury has made plenty of money, and it's all about his family. So if he could come in and him and Jari could work together, and he could make a couple million or like that may be what they need. And, that's a great public relations move as well.
It is.
So I think if you're trying to keep everybody there and I think they can keep Malkin easy. I think Letang is the hard one.
Yeah.
And so, because I think he's still playing at such gosh, he almost had 70 points this year.
I know.
He's 100 years old and he almost had 70 points.
I know.
And, so he's playing still at a high level. So, if you can't get Letang back, for example, and you get Malkin back, and then you go out and get a defenseman, and then you bring in Fleury, you've kind of won the fans over again, although the Pittsburgh fan base is pretty smart when it comes to hockey. But I think they would appreciate the gesture if they get, kind of Fleury back. So you've got an ace in the hole if Jari, becomes injured. So.
Especially at this point in Fleury's career, where he's obviously going to be a backup if he goes there. Like Jari would be the starter, he'd be the backup.
Right.
I would think, and that's a key factor, because when Fleury was there before and it was a competition for the starting job, it was tough because the players were kind of rooting for him. That was always what we heard, right? Like that's always that the players, wanted him to be the goalie sometimes, and he lost the goalie, lost the starting job, and because he's that much loved by his team. I think that. I'm always a big fan of goalies, as you know. I'm a big fan of this, and I'm actually a Korpisalo guy. I think that Korpisalo is better and will go somewhere and be better than people. Yeah,
well, I basically wrote that today, that the romance with Korpisalo is far greater than the reality. And it wasn't just last season. If you look at his last couple of seasons, he's got a goal against average of north of 3.0.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Save percentage is below, 900. If you look at the analytics on him, they're not so good, So there's a lot about him, but in the last season when the Oilers were considering whether or not they should get a goalie, I mean, what we kept hearing is Korpisalo was one of the guys they were looking at, and maybe it was because of the age. They thought, we'll get him in there. He's still. What is he, 28?
Still young, yeah. I think he's around 28.
And that's only 3 years after when we say goalies start to be ready.
Right.
They're more like Major League Baseball players, where in Major League Baseball, you're expected to come up 24, 25, even 26. And that's kind of where goalies are. So
it's really true. It's a great point. I think every goalie has a regular season thing and a playoff thing, and I really think that changes with goalies. Like even what we saw, with Domingue in Pittsburgh, he was capable of playing in the playoffs pretty well at times. He really looked like he could play, but you don't want him your everyday goalie, and the Rangers figured out his glove hand wasn't the greatest and they would shoot at his glove all the time. But yeah, he still had moments where he was like, okay, he can play in the playoffs. Some goalies can't play in the playoffs. They fall apart in the playoffs. Korpisalo has been good in the playoffs. That's where my love affair with him is, and it goes back a couple years now because they haven't been in the playoffs. But when he was in the playoffs, he was really, really good. So
yeah,
I want to get a goalie that's really good in the playoffs. I think Talbot's another one. Yeah, it's definitely another one they have on here. I'm not sure what to make of him.
Well, I mean, I think that's a hard read because we don't know how great, how great was he? Was he really insulted? I know his wife said something on social media, but was that his wife saying that because he was upset, or is it Cam Talbot, or is Cam Talbot saying, look, hockey's a business. I get it. Marc-Andre Fleury's going to the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
So maybe they had to bring him in. Is he being pragmatic about it and saying, I'm coming in, Fleury could be elsewhere next year. I'm coming in to be the number one goalie. Or is he saying, I'm upset,
I would not blame him for being upset. Obviously it's he was so good.
Right. But, he's only got a year left and, I don't know, maybe the Wild to say, well, he's not the answer either. And maybe suddenly they'll be in the Jack Campbell sweepstakes or,
right. Husso, who took who played well. I don't know. It's so hard to say. It's going to be, I think that is something we're going to have to watch very closely.
Yeah. And that's an important, the goaltending decision in Minnesota is so important because the team is so good. Like, it's not like, well, let's not worry too much about it because, we still got a ways until we're ready. They're ready now. They've got to get the goaltending right.
Yeah, and they traded away their young goalie. They have decided that they're gonna, they went all in on Marc-Andre Fleury, and they could bring him back. I mean, I think I couldn't help but think that Guerin said to Fleury partially in getting him there is like, listen, we would definitely like to keep you for more than just this. And I think that it was about the same time that you heard Fleury saying he was going to play another year. It was all kind of around the same time. It felt curious to me that maybe Fleury was saying, okay, I'd like him. From everything I heard, Fleury liked it in Minnesota a lot. Like he liked the fans, he liked the situation, he liked the city. So it's a great hockey city. So we'll keep an eye on it. Well, that's all the time we have, Kev. But thank you so much for everything. And folks out there, remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Enjoy the game starting tonight. Can't wait. We'll be back in tomorrow to talk about them. Then we'll get Mike's predictions, I'm sure, on Twitter somewhere. Look for them. They'll be out there. All right, take it easy, everyone. Talk to you soon.